morning, everyone. Okay, good morning, everybody. Somebody can give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. Make sure we're still waiting on a quorum, so we'll be back with you. So, thank you, sir.
Back in the temporary, the concretables back there. One section 95 I did 3 times. 4 million, 24 million, 45 million. Same guy, same manufacturer. Early 60s. That was the old time. Now you know, they use the hydroplane. What I call the popcorn next to the
morning, everyone. Can you hear us online?
Yep, I see a head nod, so,
Yes.
okay, good. All right, we will get started. We have barely made a quorum, so we're okay with that. We're expecting one or two other people to sign on, so we should be able to retain a quorum if somebody drops off. Guess we'll do, how do we want to do attendance with online people?
Oh, for the online people, we have a record
Okay.
of who's online.
Okay, then we'll do attendance within the room.
Okay.
All right, Lori, start us off, please.
Yes, Dr. Lori Vinacore, the Alliance of Delray Residential Associations.
George Elmore, I think the Economic Council. Okay.
Joseph Sanchez, COO.
David Porter, representing Cork.
Leanne Evans, School District Treasurer.
David Dolan, Chief Facilities Management.
Heather Frederick, Chief Financial Officer.
And we also have Aida Smith from the Inspector General's Office. I didn't want you to have to scream.
Okay, and online, we can see who's online, and we have a record, so no need to kind of announce yourself and talk over everybody. We don't have anybody here from the public, so I guess there's no public comments, because I think online is not the public, right? Online is only members.
Right.
Right, okay.
Right.
All right, so, did you want to take things out of order while we have the quorum? It's up to you, Leanne.
Well, we can. Normally I go through the presentation. The one item we can take early is the election of officers. At the last meeting, the committee voted to ask the school board for a waiver to extend the term of the chair, and the school board did approve that. So we'd like to go ahead and do that election of officers. We can do that first. So take nominations for the chair.
I'll nominate, I'll have Mr. Porter for chair and Mr. Elmore again for vice chair. They're doing an excellent job.
Okay.
I know hearing sound.
Okay. Did someone online second it?
I said, yes, Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Rhodes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay, we're good. So that takes
Thank
care of
you.
that first one. And we're going to speed through the meeting because right now we have a quorum, but barely. I'm expecting 2 more people to join. They're not here yet, so we'll rush to get through this as quickly as we can. I know everyone's got a very busy schedule. First, we have the minutes. Did anyone have a chance to approve the minutes? I know-
Yes, this is Radcliffe Brown. I have a correction to the minutes.
Okay,
It shows me as absent. I was actually virtual on that day.
okay.
Thank you.
We will make that correction. Were there any other corrections?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody have objections? Hearing none, minutes are accepted as corrected.
Okay, so I'm going to jump right into the presentation if I can find that amongst all of the slides that we have here. Here we go. And I'm going to go through this a little on the fast side, just hit the highlights. These are things that you all have seen many, many times before. So when you look at this, let's see if I can make it a little bigger. The sales tax receipts. Whoops. Okay, the sales tax receipts continue to come in. We're at 121% of projection for this time frame. So they continue to come in very quickly. We have collected at this point 62.5% of the projected receipts for the 10-year tax. We're 57% time-wise through. And when you think about it, we had a 3% escalator built in, so you would expect to be actually a little shy of the percentage of time. Instead, we're way ahead. So I continue to think that the sales tax will end a year early. Anything can happen between now and then. We've learned that, so we'll just keep an eye on it. I'll continue to report back to you. But it's 121% of projections, kind of speaks for itself. Expenditures
Weren't
through,
we at like 114%, I think, at our last meeting? So it's even gone up a higher percentage now.
yes, well, and remember quarterly, and when you look at the actual, the spreadsheet that shows the revenues, those quarterly payments, quarterly the state sends out, I call it a catch-up payment, but it's really, it's anybody that paid late, but it's also small businesses that only have to file sales tax quarterly. Those numbers are double, 250% of what they were the same time last year. So I think what we're seeing is just the shift in the way the economic base runs. You have a lot of people doing the gig work and the small business type of thing. And so you see a lot of people, small businesses are filing that way.
Okay.
And Mrs. Brill has joined us, thank you. So expenditures this is through July. The report, the big report that I provided is through June 30th, which is our quarterly update, but I can give you through July right now. So sales tax expenditures at $515 million, open purchase orders of $94 million, interest earnings at $9.9 million, and the fees associated with the line of credit, $410,000. We did just extend that line of credit for one more year. I don't think we're going to need it after that. I wasn't sure if we needed it right now. We have the bank that did the line of credit, PNC, continued to offer the rate of 0.01%. The rate is so low, it's hard to say no. And I keep hearing from Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Dolan about things being moved up, and we want to expedite work whenever we can. So I wanted to keep that line of credit there to address any needs. But it's only for one more year. I don't believe we'll need it after that. The revenues are coming in so fast that we're actually taking sales tax revenue, collecting this year, and setting it aside for expenses we're going to have in FY26. Because we won't have the revenues coming in. It'll only be half the year in '26. We're that far ahead that I have money that we can set aside for that.
But you've made $10 million. Why wouldn't you keep it in there and just let it keep making money?
Oh, with this line of credit, we never drew on the line of credit. It was there for budgetary purposes.
Okay, and
That's why we don't have to worry about arbitrage.
Right.
Because we don't have to pay anything back to the IRS.
So that's separate than what you're earning money on? Or is that the line of credit?
No, this is not the line of credit.
Oh.
The interest, because there was no cash associated with the line of credit, it was
Right.
just for budgetary purposes. We could issue purchase orders, but we wouldn't be able to pay bills unless we actually drew on the line of credit, but we could issue POs. A lot of times, the projects that we're doing may take 2 years to complete, so we'll issue a purchase order and not pay everything out for 2 years. So the line of credit helps us expedite that work.
So the interest earnings is on money you've invested that we don't need to spend right now?
Right.
Oh, okay.
For the
And-
record,
Sharon Schneiderman just joined. She is a ex officio member of the committee. But welcome, thank you for joining. Yeah, and the interest earnings should start growing as interest rates have risen throughout the world, throughout the country. Our interest earnings are certainly increasing at this point.
Okay.
Okay, this is the summary that that you helped me create. Let me see if I can move this out of the way so I can make this a little bigger. But this is the summary that we have and we show every year. So when we looked at this last year, the percentage available committed to date was a lower number. We brought in new money for the new fiscal year. So at this point, we've gotten 50% of the referendum committed to date for facility renewals, but 63% of the funds available are committed to date. And committed means requisitions or purchase orders, or spent. So the facilities department is spending and moving forward with projects, which is great. We want the money to be used and to make a difference with the classrooms. Proposed plan modifications. I'm going to go through the first group and then hand it over to Mr. Dolan to walk through the rest of them. The first two, the first two are changes from the last meeting. Back in May, the committee approved the concept of moving 4 facility renewal projects into the COPS issue, which would free up dollars to deal with cost escalation. And at the time, I mentioned that we may come back and adjust some of the dollars because I made the exact amount we were borrowing was going to be adjusted based on exactly when we borrowed the money. So we actually were able to increase it and do an extra $559 million. So we increased the amount going into the COPS issue and decreased the amount in the sales tax, which put that money back into the sales tax reserve. The other thing we talked about in May was the debt service associated with Grove Park and Melaleuca, because those 2 modernization projects will exceed student station cost. The portion of the project that exceeds student station cost had to be funded with borrowing, which was always planned, but the debt service had to be paid with sales tax. So when we brought this to the last meeting, we estimated it at $4 million. It ended up being $5 million, because there's also a change order coming in this, one of the proposed plan modifications is an increase of $3 million for Grove Park, and that is in excess of student station costs. So the total amount, including interest, which I didn't have last time, is just over $5 million. So we're setting that aside to make debt service payments for the portion of those projects that are exceeding student station costs.
But that's COPS, not necessarily sales tax dollars,
The
right?
sales tax has to be used to make the debt service
I see.
payment.
Okay.
So we're setting that money aside. Now, what's interesting is in the middle of this, the state also increased and changed the cost per student station factors. So we updated this based on the best information we have. So we'll be spending some money from the sales tax reserve, and I've already got that set aside for debt service payments. It's split between this year and next, FY '23 and '24.
So when Tallahassee changes the factors for cost per student station, does that happen, does that affect the middle of a project, or is that only at the start of a project?
It's for this purpose, it's at the start of the project because we have to set the money aside to make the debt service payments.
Right.
But for compliance with the whole statute, it's based on the cost factor when the school opens,
Jeez.
which that's one of the biggest concerns and complaints the facilities department has when I say we have to be in compliance with student station costs when we award the contract, because the cost factors could go up or down. So we lock it in, and that way the board is assured that we're in compliance when we award the contract. If the cost factors go up, then chances are we're under student station costs. We could be well under student station costs, but it's too late for the borrowing.
That's something it sounds like should be a part of our legislative agenda, is to say, no, lock it in when the contract is signed. That's the only thing we can control.
Right. Well, and when we go to the board, we actually attach a document that shows the calculation, because my fear, and I've had this conversation with staff from DOE as well as the bond attorneys that I work with, what happens if we award the contract, we're in compliance with student station costs, then the cost factors goes down, and we've seen it happen. We could technically be out of compliance. So when we go to the board, we're documenting it everywhere. And I've got 2 different law firms that said we'd love to debate that with
Exactly.
legislative staff. So the way we're documenting it works really well. We just went through our first audit on that.
Yep. And we're also being a little bit conservative in those things that we include in that which we present to the board, so that we kind of, not say too much padding, but we have a little padding. If we include contingency that we don't spend, the contingency was up front included.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that.
Okay, PPM 134 is just increasing the amount of sales tax revenue that we earned for FY '22. So it was an increase, and the money is set aside in that reserve, the sales tax, the interest reserve. It's segregated. That's something that we'll tap into towards the end of the program. But there's about, as he showed in the other slide, there's almost $10 million there.
Yeah, and we're, what, halfway through the referendum?
57% through.
So if we doubled that, if things go great, we get 20 million bucks. I mean, that's almost an element it's about 5, 6 projects.
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, I just want to welcome Mr. Dumars, who's also joined us.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
very much. Okay, and then we have a group of projects. There's 3 of them together. These are projects, Addison Meisner, Washington, and Plamosa Addition. These were funded with the 2020 COPS issue, and the projects are done, but they haven't done the financial closeout. But we pulled some money out of these projects. There was enough money in that COPS issue to be able to add in one of the core expansions that we planned to borrow money for this year. So we didn't need to do that. So we pulled the money out of these projects that are nearing completion. These are on the referendum list, but we used COPS to pay for them. So we're bringing them back just to let you know that we're reducing the budget. The money went into restricted reserve, and we're using it to pay for a core expansion.
So to summarize, so I understand this, these projects came in where we had contingency we could pull out, and we pulled it out and then put it back into referendum projects?
No, it didn't
No.
go into a referendum
Okay.
project, but this is COPS revenue, it's not sales tax
Right.
revenue, but they're on the referendum list.
I see.
So what we've done is we're reducing these budgets
Mm-hmm.
and taking them out because they're done. There's actually some more money that will be coming out of these as they do final closeouts. And then the sales tax reserve, I lumped these together because Dave's going to take over after this one, but this is the last one, PPM 148. During the capital plan process, we went through and adjusted for the line of credit, when we expect sales tax dollars to come in. We've reduced the sales tax reserves down by 2 million, net of everything else, just based on the current projections that we have. And that sales tax reserve number, I go through and review it in great detail every year as we do the budget process. When are revenues coming in? What do we expect there's going to be? But the sales tax reserve is still very healthy. It's at $119 million. So it did go down by 2 million during the budgetary process.
Still have a question on, when they're COPS issues, I know they were on the referendum list, but this committee really has no power to recommend anything about a COPS issue. Really, we're just sales tax. So I'm wondering why we have PPMs on things that this committee doesn't really manage.
Well, these projects were on the referendum list, so part of your scope is to monitor to make sure that all the projects are completed.
Okay,
So these projects
All
are
right.
complete, we just haven't done the final closeout. So it's just
Okay.
keeping you apprised as we adjust the budgets.
okay.
Okay, and I'm going to let Dave take over for the rest of
Let me,
these.
any questions online for anything Leanne went over? Okay, not seeing any, thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. The items that I have before you are adjustments to some of our modernizations. So we'll start off with Grove Park. Grove Park, it came to our attention that once we got into construction, that in an effort to stay under cost per student station, we were using existing modular classroom buildings for spaces that were non-academic. They were pull-out types of classrooms for things, support. So it was, we looked at it after the fact and realized we wanted to build an addition on the building that we're actually building now. It's under construction. Site's been demoed, we're in construction, and we needed to eliminate those modulars. And this is for a $3 million increase for both cost of eliminating those modulars and building 7 new support spaces. I'll call them, resource rooms and support spaces.
And that was funded with the COPS issue that we recently completed.
Correct. And the next 2, I'm not 100% sure if we've actually borrowed for them
We have
yet.
not. That's the one planned for January, February?
January, February, okay. So Pine Grove is a modernization that we're in the design process for, and we anticipate that both Pine Grove and Winbrook, the next one below, is they're going to start construction this May, as soon as school is out. Pine Grove is increased by $8 million due to material escalation and our market labor rate increases.
What was the original budget for Pine Grove, or let's say estimate? I mean, to go up by 8 million, it must have been a $20 million
Yeah,
project.
it was about a 20 or 22 million.
That's a brand-new replacement school?
It is.
Okay.
It's a replacement school.
Okay, that's why.
These are the modernizations. These are
Yes.
not facility renewals.
Right.
Yeah, oh, and I'm sorry, for clarity for everybody else, when I refer to modernizations, those are often schools that are existing and that we're going to knock down a portion or all of that school and rebuild a brand-new school that it's reached its, let's say, 50-year or whatever the state Department of Education views as the life cycle of that building. It's reached that limit, and we're going to build a new one. So my apologies for
That's
using
okay.
terms that not everybody's familiar
I
with.
never liked the modernization word anyway. I like replacement school because
Sure.
that's what we're doing. We're not modernizing something anyway.
Right.
For future pages like this, I would find it, at least me, helpful if you would put maybe COPS up there, like, modernization in parentheses, COPS, so that we know that you're not asking us for $3.4 million of sales tax money, it's COPS money that
Okay.
you're managing.
Right.
But that we know about.
Okay, well, I'll clarify the top of the page. These are budget increases funded with other sources.
Oh, okay.
So this whole slide, that's why they're grouped
I
together.
see. Okay.
They're all funded with other sources.
If I would have read the title, it would have answered my
That's
question.
okay. I didn't read it to you. I didn't walk through it, but all of these are funded with COPS.
Okay, fine.
Okay, and Winbrook is the same way. It's roughly the same type. It's not the same construction. And in this case, we've got about a $3.4 million anticipated increase for the same issue, material escalation and market labor rate increases.
And Grove Park and Winbrook are currently under construction with Pine Grove in the future.
Pine Grove and Winbrook are going to start next summer.
But we already, don't we have the temporary school for Winbrook now?
Well, we have the temporary holding school that Winbrook will occupy, but it's currently occupied by Melaleuca.
Oh, that's what I was getting confused
Yeah,
with.
Grove Park and Melaleuca are the side by side. They're both under construction as we speak.
Right.
Grove Park's holding campus is at Lincoln,
Right.
and Melaleuca's holding campus is a portable campus at Crestwood Middle School.
Right, okay.
And then our last one on this page is Historic Roosevelt Modernization. We are increasing this by $6 million. The referendum had a $10 million budget with a relatively uncertain defined scope. And now we've gone through our due diligence, both with the academic team and with the facilities. And as you can see right there, it includes the demolition of the existing kitchen building. We got Castaldi to demo that. Renovation of the existing historic gymnasium, the renovation of the welding lab, which is right next to the gymnasium, and then construction of a new 20,000 square foot building for educational programs. This is both a K-12 and an adult education, anticipated as both K-12 and adult educational facility. And I say 11 and 12, more like a choice program. So that's where our same thing as our cost escalating. We didn't have enough money at $10 million for all of it anyway, but we do have escalation that we're accounting for as well.
And this project budget is very similar to what we did for the Delray Full Service Project. There's similar projects and scopes.
Question on Roosevelt.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yes, I see the increases, 3 million, 8 million, 3 million. Have you noticed that there are 3 different projects here, and you probably have different labor and different materials? Do you notice the percentages are about the same of increases for all the projects, for materials and labor? And how much has that increase in percentage gone up?
Well, right now, these are estimates. I mean, Grove Park is under construction, but the other 3 are still in the early stages of design or in the middle stages of design. So these are estimates based on what we're anticipating, what we're seeing in the field. We are, on all of these projects, we're working with CM at risk contractors during our design phase. It's part of our due diligence that they help us estimate, but they also kind of have a pulse on the market to know where those particular materials or trades are increasing. So yes, generally the contractors we're using are all recognizing the same things. Some of us recognize that right now concrete is through the roof. Not only is it through the roof, but it's also hard to get. We are finding delays in our projects because we're not getting CEMEX is not delivering on the number of pours we need. So it is across the board. We're seeing the same types of material increases, the same types of labor shortages, electrical.
Yeah, and what are you seeing? What is the percentage?
depends.
We've had challenges this past couple of years. Is it like has the cost of the projects you estimate to go up by 30% for labor and 30% for
It's
materials, or just change it? Just
Well, it's too varying in the scopes and the included materials. Some will have tilt wall concrete, some are
okay.
structural steel, and completely different environments, completely different material variants. And labor shifts quite frequently. Like right now, I know I'm hearing from a lot of the contractors, the electrical market is tough. Getting electrical people to work, getting good trades crews. That wasn't that way 6 or 8 months ago, or as much.
Okay, thank
So
you.
they do vary. So I wish I could give you a specific
You
percentage.
can't say, oh, labor's gone up 20 or 30%.
Yeah.
And
No,
you can't, it's just, yeah, I get it. Thank
And
you.
we do track with a lot of our industry folks those areas. And in fact, you've seen some, our Cork, our construction oversight, and ISSOC have seen adjustments over the years where we've switched from structural steel to concrete because we could see the price increases coming, so.
It's very interesting. I usually join and listen in on the Construction Oversight Review Committee. And they dig into this a lot, and they'll be changing out the structure of building, as he mentioned, from steel to concrete or from concrete back to steel, based on what's more economically viable at the time. And it's also availability. I heard all about concrete and how they have to request it weeks in advance. They used to be able to
Months in
call
advance.
months in advance. You used to be able to call and have concrete delivered a couple days later. It's scheduled months in advance now. So
Yeah,
it's.
we've got 2 projects right now that are under construction, Grove Park and Maliuk, and they're both very similar in size and design and everything. And they are both having the same problem. We're scheduled for 2 pours a week. Like one school would have pours scheduled for Monday and Wednesday. The other would have them scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday through the same concrete, like Matchmeyer. And they just reached out to us a couple weeks ago and said, nope, we're only going to do one for the next several weeks. And not much we can do, so we have to make adjustments elsewhere.
Yeah, since our last meeting, not much has really changed in terms of supply and demand, and that's driving costs and lack of labor. The story's the same.
And I should have mentioned earlier, this is the one meeting when there's more PPMs than normal because we've just adopted the capital plan. So a lot of the budget changes that you see during the year are when we're awarding the contract and we're moving forward. This time, at this meeting, once a year, we're also adjusting based on changes in the capital plan. So these are based, a lot of these are based on estimates. We don't have the actual contracts awarded yet, but we know the costs are going to be higher.
Dave, on Roosevelt, one of the first site plans I saw, there was a planned kind of a community medical clinic. Is that still part of the total budget? And
That is not part of this. We refer to that as like a phase 2 or, some other phase.
Okay.
This is focused strictly on the academic build-out of the campus, which, as I mentioned, a little bit of choice, 11th and 12th grade, and adult ed, between the gymnasium, the welding lab, which is going to be reconstituted, and then a brand-new 20,000 square foot building. And as Ms. Evans points out, it's a lot like Delray Full Service, which also is a 20,000 square foot building.
Yeah, the concept of doing the clinic, I think I also saw something about maybe having a food market of some sort. The school district can't borrow for those for that type of facilities. So Dave and I work very closely on how we do that, but there's a third-party group called the RISE Group that's working to raise money to do some of those improvements for the community rather than for education purposes.
well, the kids that take welding there will have immediate job openings anywhere they want to go.
Okay, and these are scope changes.
Yeah, okay, there, I was going to say, you caught me, I was going to say, okay, just to make sure everybody knows that this slide is all about the scope changes on some of our projects. Well, the Riviera Beach Prep, this is just the, is it
It's got
combined?
both of them in there.
Did you combine them?
It's both in there.
Okay. Riviera Beach Prep was originally anticipated to be a facility renewal, and it had a certain amount of money, which, of course, I'm not going to know the numbers off the top of my head.
I'm going to pull up the PPMs for this one. I think it'd be helpful to see
Okay.
it, so.
Well, basically, let me explain the long and short of this, is Riviera Beach Prep, and I get to see it right out my window, is an alternative school, alternative education facility. Very valuable, very important to our district. And right next to Riviera Beach Prep is our North Tech, our adult ed campus. They basically share the same area, and they operate at different times. Obviously, North Tech is more of an adult ed nighttime program, and Riviera Beach Prep is more a daytime, 9th through 12th grade students. We are working with the academics to come up with a combined program to be able to introduce the opportunity to take advantage of the adult ed equipment and facilities for our Riviera Beach Prep daytime students by redoing both campuses together. That's why it's now going to be referred to as North Tech / Riviera Beach Prep Modernization. And ostensibly what we're looking to do at this campus is to modernize both sets of buildings. We're not demolishing any buildings. These are buildings that with renovating costs, we can, it might be a little bit more expensive, but we have the ability to build, renovate these spaces and make them more beneficial for the academic programs at Riviera Beach Prep as they currently are constituted, and offer that, that connectivity between them and the North Tech campus. Not to say that North Tech won't try to run daytime classes. I can't speak to that, but knowing that the opportunities for our 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade kids to be able to get more opportunities for career development through the North Tech campus.
And we're going to close out the project called Facility Renewal Riviera Beach Prep, and the 13.4 million that's there, or 13.5 almost, will be moved into sales tax reserve, and the new project with the new scope will be funded with COPS. So this is one of the, we had several projects like this that we planned to shift into COPS because the scope has changed so much. It's no longer just a facility renewal. It's more of what we call the modernization.
Are you maxing out your COPS capability?
No, we're still really good with COPS, and if that's something, I can bring that back to you at the next meeting.
I was going to say, you're going to make her bring the slide, because
I've
she
got a slide
really
with a
loves that
chart.
slide.
The board knows when I do a presentation of budget, I always have to show the slide. I'll be happy to bring that to you. We have
Okay.
plenty of room to maneuver with the COPS issues.
Okay, good.
And I'm just going to stay with it here if you're
Okay,
okay.
that's
'cause
fine.
This has the data.
So
Okay,
the
and-
13.5 million or whatever goes back into what
Sales
we
tax
need
reserve.
for the overruns on some of the other projects.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's a balancing act.
And we're going to use some of it with the next item.
Yes, Inlet Grove facility renewal. This is an alternative, well.
It's a charter school.
This charter school is our responsibility to provide them a space, a building. And we don't have the flexibility within the state's guidelines for any sort of new construction on the high school level. So what we can do is we can renovate the existing campuses. For many of you know this as the old Suncoast campus. We can renovate that campus, and it's a pretty substantial 100,000 square foot campus. I don't know if you want to touch on the numbers of where that money is being
Right, within
shifted from.
the facility renewal lines, we had money called possible critical needs, and that was where we stored funds that were set aside for South Tech and Inlet Grove. That's the two conversion charter schools the district had, and we had money, we put money there until we knew we needed it. So I'm taking the money from the possible critical needs line and moving it up into the Inlet Grove project, which was always planned. But what we're also doing is taking another $11 million out of the sales tax reserve to augment that budget, to get us up to the $30 million total budget that has been requested.
That's correct.
Looks like it's on an even match to the number you're pulling out of the one
Well,
above.
there's 13.4,
Oh,
so it's a little bit,
13.4. Okay, yeah,
little bit
right,
extra,
right.
but we
Right.
did use a lot of it
Okay.
with this one.
Correct.
Is Emma Banks still associated with that one?
She is.
Wow.
She is.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had a good tour with her she wanted to see that renovating an existing building can actually be done quite well. And we used Washington Elementary right down the street as an example to show her how fabulous. We renovated 2 buildings at Washington during our modernization. And in all honesty, you could not tell the difference to figure out which buildings were new, which ones were existing that were renovated.
But her school, you're going to renovate the entire school,
Entire school.
no tear down, rebuild.
That is correct.
So that'll even be more of a challenge because it's going to be an occupied campus, right? Washington was vacant.
Because we moved, right. We moved
Right,
the
I mean,
kids
it
out.
was 2 buildings remaining, you tore everything else down.
And
This will
this
be a
is-
bigger challenge.
It will be a bigger challenge, and, but the good news is that at 100,000 square feet, we feel like there are opportunities for, just the way we work on facility renewals, when we have open classrooms, a lot of the principals will leave 4 or 5 classrooms open. Our contractors can work in those classrooms, renovate them, bring them up to standard, and then move on. So this is certainly an alternative. Ms. Sanchez?
So I just want to say, because we plan to renovate everything and not build any new, but once we figure out exactly what's going to go into what spaces, we may learn something that, something can't fit into an existing space. So I just want to reserve and say that our intent is to renovate only, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have to build one new building for one program that can't fit into an existing facility. I'm thinking about the
High bay kind
the
of.
marine program or something like that, which may not fit into an existing space.
But I think what I just heard Dave said is that we're not allowed, because of the conversion charter, to build new.
No, but you could renovate it to, if we were to have to build build out that section, let's say turn what was classrooms that were only a 1-story space into 2-story, we could do a full renovation and turn something like that into a 2-story if necessary.
And the reason building new is challenging is because you run up against cost per student station when you're building new, and you don't run up against it when you're doing renovation. And that school is very large when you think of the number of students in it. They want to keep all that space. So we would not be able to build anything that large, but we can renovate.
Right.
So renovation would it be allowed to tear a wing down and build a new wing, or is that considered?
You wouldn't be
direct?
able to tear down a whole wing and build new square footage, but if I had a 1,000 square foot space that was a classroom, and it was a 1-story, and I wanted to turn it into a 2-story garage bay, that 1,000 square feet still sits, as long as I work within the framework of that building.
Right,
I
but
can
you
renovate
can't
it.
take 5,000 square feet of space, tear it down to the dirt, and rebuild the same building, but new.
We would not have the capacity to do that.
Interesting, okay. So the state defines renovation as basically touching an existing thing and not tearing it down and rebuilding the same thing.
Yeah, Washington's a perfect example. Washington Elementary, we left the shell. We ripped the roof off, all the infrastructure above ceiling, left the CMU block walls.
But only for 2 buildings.
Yeah.
The rest of it was a new campus.
Correct, but we were able to do that and stay within cost per student station. by doing
I
that.
see. Well, we're doing something similar at Grove Park, where we're
Grove Park,
retaining
yep,
something
Malibu.
so that we can do renovation and not have those dollars go against
See.
cost per student station.
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody else with questions? I'm kind of hogging the mic here. Okay, thanks.
Okay, now let me switch back.
I was going to say, jump back to my,
Yeah, the presentation might be easier at this point. These are simpler. So these are budget increases funded with the sales tax.
Okay.
okay. Crystal Lakes is a facility renewal project that we've taken the GMP to the board. We had everything we needed for the bulk of the scope, and we didn't write what it was. There was
No,
something.
it's right here. It's cover
Oh, it's
walk,
the line
building
below it.
envelope.
Maybe I ought to put my glasses back on. I took them off because they were hurting.
You can try to make it
Okay, so
little
we have a
bigger.
change order coming up for, for Crystal Lakes. And as you can see there, covered walkways, building envelope, and I was going to say, I knew there were brick facade work. Perimeter fencing and gates, replacement of air handler units in buildings 6 and 8, as well as the exhaust fans. These were add-ons that we knew we needed to get to. We just didn't have enough money, and we didn't want to hold the project up. So we took the change order, or we took the GMP to the board and told them that these were the items we still had to get back to, and here is the change order we are doing to bring all the rest of those items. So we do complete every item on that list.
Yeah, I mean, just for historical purposes, the committee may remember that previously we had cool, safe, dry, and bright was the mantra to kind of pull scope because prices were going up. So we pulled scope out of some of the renovation projects and said, they'll get done, but not right now. We don't have the budget. We'll wait and see how much extra we might get after we're at the end. And now the philosophy is, and I agree with that, is while we're out of school, let's just get it done and bump the numbers up and get it over with.
And that, thank you very much. That's exactly the analysis is, we are going to do it right now while we're in the school. The next few are facility renewal, Point Siena, $1.4 million. Replacement of air handlers and parking lot striping. These are scope items that are coming forward right now. We're in construction and we need to make sure we address these items. Royal Palm Beach High School, we see a need for a $120,000 increase for modernizing our elevators. Kind of a critical
Those
component.
costs are going up too.
They are.
Yeah, and they get a little use.
Mr. Radcliffe back in. I'm sorry, and the last one, of course, is Santa Lucia's High School, $150,000. We've recognized the running track needs improvements, and again, not something that we want to pull out and do a project later on down the line. We need to get it done while we have contractors on site.
What was the original budget for Point Siena?
Let's see, do I have that on
Let's see.
here? Let's see.
And when we go up by 150,000, 120,000, I mean, to me, I don't even hiccup over that one.
It
When you go up
was-
1.4.
It was 6 points,
Okay.
almost 7 million, going up to
That's-
8.3.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, and that's all of the PPMs. We have some more that are, well, do you want to just keep going through the pending ones?
I was going to say,
Okay, I'm just going to refresh everybody's memory. This was a slide that we talked about back in May. And again, this is how we're expecting to have budget increases. The ones we saw for Inlet Grove, it was built in this, and then all the facility renewal projects. These are the facility renewals we switched over to COPS. This is Riviera Beach Prep, the scope change that we talked about. The sales tax reserves, just looking at all the funds that were available. And we talked about this in detail at the last meeting. But we wanted to remind everybody that this was the plan. And Dave's going to talk about, we have some projects that are coming that we expect to have increases that will go to the board before the committee meets again. So normally, we would do that and bring it back for ratification, but these are large dollar amounts. So we wanted to start bringing these to the committee in advance. We'll actually bring true PPMs, the full PPM with a number on it, to you at the next meeting, after we have final numbers. But we wanted to provide you estimates of what we think these projects are going up by. And this ties back into, we were expecting about up to 190 million of cost increases. So this is in line with that. One of the things the committee asked for at the last meeting, and we are working on it, is a report that we can show where we're at, how much projects have gone up, how far along we are, what's left. We've got drafts, and we're working with the AECOM staff to finish that up, and I'm hoping we can bring that to you at the next meeting, a report that shows you how we're doing and keeping this in mind of where we're at and how much is still to come, how much has been completed, so that we're all comfortable that we're on track. Dave, do you want to talk about what these are briefly?
well, basically, I just want to let everybody understand that these are, when we get in the design process, when I was saying we're working with the contractors and our architects and going through the design process, all the way through it, it's like a 9-month process, let's say, on these facility renewals. During the course of the design, they're working out a lot of the details and continually pricing them. So we're seeing, month by month updates based on the level of plan development. And where we are on these, and Mr. Porter knows with Cork, every month I put together a slideshow that says, here's what's coming up over the next 3 months. I always want to scare them and tell them next month you're going to look at 5 GMPs. So but I'm letting them know that that's the case. And with those projects over the next 3 months, these are where we see. Some of them are further out. Some, couple of them are in December, that we would take to the board. And so we're a little bit further behind on the estimating on those, or a little bit less developed, let's say. But some of them were, Coral Sunset, for example, was ready to go, or just about ready to go this month, and I pulled it. I needed some further fine tuning. So I would anticipate that $2.5 million is going to be pretty accurate based on the information we're getting from our contractors and our consultants on the final GMP price that we take to the board. But it was really telling when my team put this together, and that's why we wanted to bring it to you and let you know that, like, for example, if you meet in December, at least knowing this is what we're seeing right now. You'll see that virtually every one of the projects, the GMPs that are coming up, we're seeing some substantial anticipated increases. And I over-summarized it, but I just wanted you to see that, like, HVAC, air conditioning units, roof replacement, fire alarms. A lot of these are the typical expensive charges. When a roof goes bad, we think it's $800,000, and then when you actually get up there and start peeling the roof off and find out that it's really 2.5, not 800,000. And that's a lot of what's happened on our projects, is that we had an anticipated budget from the referendum, and once we get up there and actually physically see it and work through it and realize this is the time. Again, what was mentioned before, we're not getting up and we're going to replace half the roof or patch some of it and replace some of it. We're going to take the time and really make sure that we do this well and we do it for the long term. And that's where you're starting to see these some of these projects coming in with $2.5 million increases on a $5, $6, $7 million GMP. So the percentages are starting to creep up. To your question before, right now, I think we had a power outage.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, for the people online, we have lost power. We're running on generators. So if the screen goes black, it's because the generator is, I'm not sure how long it'll run, but we're almost done with this, so we're going to push through quickly.
Yes, please.
So on the roof replacements, when you go in to look at a roof that's failed, if you see visible signs of mold, do you bring in a remediator to
Yes.
look at it, or do you always, as a standard, check for mold? Because we know where there's leaks that go on and on and on. In Florida, there's mold. How do you handle that?
Well, our ECS department, our environmental department, is much more proactive than the roof contractors. So we see the mold a lot sooner than when we're peeling off the roof. We'll see that mold and address it. And it's usually, oftentimes it's maintenance and ECS are the ones who tell us, here's where we've got problems, let's focus on it, and we recognize, and then we'll do the roof replacement.
Build that into your costs?
Well, the remediation is often taken out of the, I don't want to step on,
They have money in their
their
budget to deal with mold
Yeah,
remediation.
And like Mr. Dolan said, I mean, they are very proactive in going in to remediate, and depending on how extensive it is, it depends on whether it's going to be capital funded or whether it's going to be funded in the operating fund.
Yeah, I'll just remind everybody that when we say we're over this estimate, the original estimates for all of the schools were not done by a physical inspection of every school and every roof and every window in every school. It was more of a generic estimate to come up with how many millions or billions do we need for the sales tax referendum to take care of the facility conditions. And so what we're seeing is a combination of scope change and scope increase, because now all of a sudden we get on the roof and the architect looks at it, and the engineers look at it and they go, I'm sorry, you thought you were going to repair this roof? No, it's coming off.
Automatically replaced.
And we're getting the other combination of escalation with prices. So I don't get real upset when I see things being more expensive than what we thought they were going to be, because the thought was a big educated guess.
Well, and I want to comment on that. With the referendum, if we have scope out there to just do a repair and we need to do a replacement and the scope is significantly changed, we will often fund that from something outside the sales tax. If it's different than the original scope, if we thought we were going to replace part of a roof, going ahead and do the rest of the roof is okay. But if it's a different building or something, we'll use a different capital funding source. We try to eliminate scope creep within the projects and would fund those from other sources. But this is
That's also a function of timing, too. So, for example, Coral Sunset might have been the odd one because it's exactly what Ms. Evans talked about is the scope included one building of roof replacement. And when we got up there and realized, oh, there's 11 more buildings that we really need to do this on. And so it's a substantial change, but it's not something that we plan for in our capital plan. So in this particular case, a lot of our costs there, $1 million of that 2.5 is getting the other roofs replaced.
So I'd just like to ask the committee, is this something that you want to see? Because the other option is not to bring it to you as an estimate and just bring it to you for ratification, because the board will most likely approve these. They'll see these for approval before ISSOC sees them, just because you meet quarterly and the board is meeting monthly. I had this conversation with Mr. Porter, and he thought it would be helpful for you all to see it and be able to say, yeah, this makes sense, this is okay, and we'll bring it back for you to ratification, but it won't be a surprise, you've seen it already. So if this is something that you'd like us to do, we can continue to do this, because I think we're going to continue to see these type of increases.
I think it's good to see the whole picture.
Okay.
All right, and as soon as we know that if we have this opportunity to present to you, there's a lot more clarity to see what's coming.
Anybody online not want to see this and just wait for it to get brought back with real prices, and the board would have already approved it? Okay, then we'll take that as a consensus that please continue to bring these to us before it goes to the board. That way it'll also look like you're not kind of trying to go around the committee to get approval. And if we have objections, we'll give them to you now, and that way they'll be able to be reflected in what you do take to the board.
And I will certainly, going forward, I'll be more specific, because I can do things. You've asked me several times now, what was the original budget in comparison to this increase?
Right.
And I realize, certainly, going forward, I will do so.
And the original estimates, get the word budget out of there.
Estimates,
They're
correct, that's
estimates.
right, we've already talked about it at Cork.
Okay, we do need to have a vote on all the proposed plan modifications. This is more, these future ones are an odd. I don't know if it's an actual vote. You can tell me if you want to vote on those, because we haven't really given you a PPM yet, but,
I think we can, because that way you've got something official from the committee that's saying, yeah, these are fine, bring us back the real numbers when it's time.
okay.
So moved.
Okay? I guess that was the first and the second. Anyone have objections? Okay,
No.
that was a quick way to do it. Did I hear a voice? Somebody speak?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and that's on all of the
That's
proposed
on,
plan modifications?
that's on all of them, yeah.
Okay, so the rest of the meeting is videos and showing you work that's going on. So if we lose you all, this information is available online. I sent you the link, and there is a link for a video at the end, because I keep hearing the beeping from the battery supplies. So we may lose you at some point, and I apologize if that happens. Dave, you want to walk through these?
Sure, sure.
You can have the mouse.
Oh, okay. So the next few slides, again, I know that my Cork members actually really like these photos, because these actually show the nuts and bolts of what we do with our referendum. It's not, you'll see some new school stuff in a little while, but this is the nuts and bolts of what we do with our referendum money. And this is really important, because this is the stuff that touches all of our kids, and quickly. So if it's paving work in the parking lot, or lighting at Limestone Creek, concrete work in our courtyards at Olympic Heights.
On the amps,
Okay,
Okay.
be able to do recordings after that.
no, I think we'll be done.
I was going to say, I will stop talking soon.
Dave's got 12 minutes.
That's it. Exactly. So a couple others here. We've got accessible walk at Limestone Creek, and of course parking lot. Lighting fixtures. It's a tremendous improvement. Not often do we have events at night, but on that rare occasion where there's a meeting or a show, a kids show at night, our parking lot lights are critical, plus life safety purposes. You'll see the roofing at Dwyer That's a vitally important project right now with that school, especially with the rains that we're uncovering. Here's some of the interior. I tried to couple them as best I could, but here's some of our interior finishes, some of the classroom work, lighting, new flooring, some of our restroom improvements, and yeah, I didn't pick the tiles, Mr. Porter, just right for the record.
Yeah, I commented at Cork that I wasn't crazy about the black and white. My eyes were already going back and forth.
So, but these are design improvements to the restrooms at a lot of these campuses, ADA compliance, as well as upgrades to more energy efficient units as well. Again, you look at that concrete courtyard and say, really? Well, it's really important to Dwyer, having a brand new, clean courtyard, and that'll get improved upon. These are important projects for these schools. Okay. All right. On to our big schools. Our what we refer to as our O high school. This high school is well under construction, as you'll see by these photos. This school is anticipated to be opened up this coming fall, August of 2023. We anticipate we will be done with construction by around May of 2023. Did I hear a question? Sir? No. Okay. As you can see, the structures are up. We've got part of the parking lot laid out. Our trailers are along on the main photo. They're along the bottom on the right. The big photo you see right there is Lyons Road, and forgive me, it's like 148th Street, the side street. There are two different entrances to the campus, one off of Lyons Road and one off of the side street. And if you'll notice that just to the north of it, I guess it's really heading south on Lyons, is the middle school. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that I'm controlling that. That's Woodlands Middle School. So while it doesn't look like a lot, it's incredibly far along. They've done a great job. It's all dried in. A lot of the infrastructure inside the building has been installed. So going forward, I'll start showing you, again, probably what are boring photos, but photos of the build out of the insides of the schools. Okay. Many of you are familiar with Blue Lake Elementary. We referred to it as 05C at the time. But Blue Lake Elementary is now complete, opened up this fall. And as a matter of fact, 2 days from now, we have a dedication ceremony for the new school. As you'll note, it is a 3-story classroom building with a 2-story building, including the media center, and 1 story, I think, was the arts buildings. There's obviously play courts outside, and you can kind of see there's the lake to the side of it is at Catherine DeHornley Park. And this is a site that was donated to the district by the city of Boca Raton as a part of their park complex. So incredible school, beautiful school. And you will see videos, but you won't see it now because we don't have one right now. I anticipate that's coming shortly. The next school, Ms. Brill's district, we have we are referring to it right now as the West Boynton Beach Area Middle School. 17 PP. It's right next to Sunset Palms Elementary, and there's a park right up there. The big vacant grass area is where the county park is going to go. And you'll notice that they've already popped up all the tilt panels for the buildings. I know it's all gray. It's kind of hard to see this, so yeah, maybe you could see a little better. There's a big 3-story building in the front, and there's a 2-story building in the back.
It's amazing when they build these schools, the walls go up overnight. You can
Yeah.
drive by and this school changes completely in a matter of a day.
Yeah, we had a groundbreaking in June, and it's September, and that's what's up. So.
Then for the next 9 months, it doesn't look like you're doing anything.
Yeah, and always want to point out, this particular project's not on the referendum list, but there are a lot of people who are interested in it, so we're including it just for your interest. It is the other new school under construction.
And as a reminder, so that school will also open up in August of 2023. So we will literally have 2 brand-new schools opening up at the same time this coming fall, the next school year. But in addition to those 2 new schools, as yet unnamed schools, and that should be shortly, we will be opening up 2 modernized schools, or school replacements. Grove Park, you can see, has been completely demolished, and except for one, the main building, the library building there, that
Media Center?
Media Center, yep.
Media Center, sorry. And the rest of the campus, the building will be similar in size and shape to that which you just saw at Blue Lake. It's the same architect, it's a similar design, and as many of you know, we try to steal the designs when they're effective and useful. Same thing is going on at Malaluka. Malaluka has been knocked down except for a couple of buildings, and there are, and while the Grove Park students are currently residing in Lincoln Elementary on the 2nd floor, a vacant portion of the campus, the Malaluka students are right there at, in rented portable campus on the campus of Crestwood Middle School. They share a couple of rooms right off of the big circuit, yeah, right there. There's a few rooms that they get to share, take advantage of and separate them from the middle school. But the bulk of the campus is right there, that main rented portable area. And that, all these kids are, by and large, they're bused. And so we now have a couple of videos. Now, again, I find them fascinating, but they're just the Grove Park and Malaluka demolition. So
Yep.
it's-
I don't think we have time to run
Time
them
to
right now,
videos, yeah.
but this was in the presentation and the link that I sent to you earlier today. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The kids in the schools, especially the high schools, are they aware of everything that's happening? And do you ever give any programming that shows what the school district is doing? They're the future taxpayers.
With regards to what's happening in the new schools that we're building for them?
Sure, yeah. A nice program set up to show students what's going on and how the
district
the
has.
importance of education and all of this.
Sure. Well, from the perspective of the particular students, the boundary work is still ongoing. So the specific students who will be going there, we're not 100% certain yet, but we have done quite a number of outreach events over the course of the last, I guess, 2 years on both the middle school and on the high school to the community at large. We've reached out to some of the organizations and had meetings with them as a whole. And of course, we also work closely with our communications department, because I think I might have even shown some of our videos that we actually pop up here are ones that were prepared by the Education Network, and where we outline a lot of those programs that are going into these schools. And on these schools, there were quite a number of meetings that it wasn't just being dictated what the academic programs were. These were question and answer, feedback, and the district worked with that feedback to identify what programs would be in those schools.
I think it's beneficial. It would be beneficial to, especially in the high school students, to have a program to show them what Palm Beach County is doing for them. They're going to be the future, and they'll be subsidizing these programs and all. It would just be. I don't, maybe nobody's thought about doing that, but I think the students should know what's being done for them.
I think the students have seen it. The videos that are done for those new schools.
Well, not the new
run on our-
schools, I'm talking about the students that are going to school, in all the schools, you know.
Well,
Anyway.
our TV crew has filmed and made videos on these schools, and they run on the TV, on the school district channel that runs in all of our schools. So when the TV comes up, they get to see it. I know when I'm waiting for a board meeting to start, they're running all those constantly. So if they're in a classroom and that's been turned on at any time, they've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
So-
That's nice. And just one other thing, we see that the sales tax is going to be ending sooner, possibly a year sooner. But with all these projects and all of this overages, do you think that is it completely planned for that everything you thought was going to get done is actually going to get done with the monies?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's what that slide, when we
The
planned it to
190
show
million.
the 190 million estimated overage, and this is how we were going to fund it. So we expect we're going to finish everything on the list.
But those estimates are just estimates, and like
It
you were
is.
saying, we don't have the actual contracts yet.
Well, we'll
but-
be bringing
so
it back
think
to
we'll
you?
Be
Yes.
okay, because, they're extending the mills, they're asking the folks voters on the ballot to extend that mills that was approved in 2018, and that's another thing for schools in a whole other direction, which IROC takes care of, right?
Right.
But I'm just wondering if they think that this sales tax, I've heard little rumblings that maybe they want to keep that 7% for a while longer, but you don't think
That's
you're going to
something-
need it, maybe?
No, in our capital plan, we've actually added a line item. It's not sales tax funded, but we're going to be doing another facility condition assessment to reevaluate all the schools, to see where we're at and see what the other needs might be. Looking at not just the condition of the facilities, which is critical, but also the use of the facilities. And we'll be using that as we develop future capital plans. And that's going to help drive, if there is additional needs or not.
Thank you.
If it's okay, I wanted to run through this because I know they're going to cut us off for power any minute. The next meeting is currently scheduled for November 4th, and I'll be out of town. I can try to attend virtually, but I was hoping to reschedule it so that I'd be able to attend. And our first thought was November 11th, which is 1 week later. It is Veterans Day, but Mr. Dolan would need to attend virtually. So we have November 18th is the following Friday, and this room is available. We're both in town. I wanted to check to see if that date was okay to move the meeting. It is the Friday before Thanksgiving week, but we would have it in the morning. There is also a possibility of moving it to December 2nd. We were trying to stick with November if we could, but those are the future dates that we're looking at.
Well, I'm the only one
Well,
here.
Miss Evans,
There's-
the audit committee has this room. So it would, on the 18th.
On the 18th? We could
Maybe
try to
it could be
schedule
a
it
different
after that.
time.
We could try to schedule it after that.
Yeah. I know I'm the only one here, and there's people on the line there, but I have planning commission on the 4th, and I'm giving a driver's course on the 11th, so the 18th would work for me, or December 2nd, but you've got a whole lot of other people too. But just to let you know that my alternate would come then,
Okay.
if you don't do it on the 18th.
Well, I can send an email out with specific times because there is that audit committee in the morning, so we would start a little bit later. But we'd like to keep it in November. We can certainly push it to December, but I wanted to.
December's too full already, please stay in November.
Okay. We'll work on towards the 18th.
A different time of day would be fine if we,
Okay.
Yeah, if you provide pumpkin pie, then you'll get more people showing up.
Pumpkin pie, we could probably manage something like that.
We'd get
figure
more
that
people,
out.
we'd get less people virtually that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the bistro has some sort of.
We can figure something
celebration.
out.
We can do it.
They usually do. And when I'll send this out, we're also going to, Miss Frederick and I are going to be working on the dates for 2023, and we'll be getting those out. And I'd appreciate if everybody could respond to the calendar item or with an email. It's challenging sometimes to know if we'll have a quorum or not. So most of you are awesome about getting back to me, but we do have some people that don't. So if you could make sure you reply to the calendar item or emails so that we know we have a quorum, that would be wonderful.
Okay, anything by anyone online? Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you.